As Speaker of the Parliament, it's a privilege to be here. Among so many committed leaders, experts and good people working to advance the role of women in economy, diplomacy and decision-making. As Ameka can tell you, the Faroe Islands are a self-governing nation under the Kingdom of Denmark and proud member of the Nordic family. Our Parliament holds full legislative authority in key areas, including management on natural resources, taxation, important, healthcare, education, infrastructure, and so on. The Nordic countries are known, as has already been mentioned, for their gender equality, where they consistently rank on the top of the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Report. And in politics, Nordic countries have some of the highest proportion of women in parliament and leading positions. We in the Faroe Islands are leaders in innovation, infrastructure, and labor participation, but in gender equality, not yet. Our parliament has actually a history of over 1800 years. Though re-established in 1852, it was abandoned for some years. It didn't regain legislative power until 1948, and now I will not go through the whole story, but despite this long tradition, I'm only the second female speaker in our history, and we have just had one female prime minister, and that was over 30 years ago. While there has been progress, definitely, challenges remain. Women makes only up 30% of the members of parliament and 33% of elected officials in local councils, and this is the lowest in the Nordic. But more seriously, the number in parliament has not grown since 2011. It may be due to the famous glass ceiling or part of the global pushback on women's rights. On the bright side, 4 of 9 government ministers are women, and this went up from 0 over just a few years. 2 of 7 political parties now have female leaders, and they are both in the government. But in business, only 14 of 100 largest companies have women in management. Still, 2 of our banks have female directors now, and they used to be amongst the worst. And we do have strongly female role models like the CEO for Atlantic Airways and for the Marine Research Institute and the female CAO for the Faroe Islands Government Bank and the Visit Faroe Islands and so on. I was only 13 years old when the first women were elected to the Faroese Parliament in 1978, and this was 60 years after the women first exercised their newly gained right to run for Parliament and vote. From the moment the women entered the Parliament, the women's rights were put on the agenda. And it was the result of 15 years of persistent efforts that led to the passage of Equal Act in 1994, which banned gender discrimination at the labor market. And since then, women, alongside progressive men, have continued to drive change for more open and tolerant society. One milestone was in 2016, when the law granting same-sex couples the right to civil marriage was passed in the Faroese Parliament only a few years ago. And it was put forward by 4 women, this bill, and I'm proud to say I was one of them. Despite steady improvements, women are still underrepresented in positions of trust, leadership roles, and in politics. To give you a better picture, since the first women were elected to the Parliament in Faroe Islands nearly 50 years ago, only 31 women have been elected to Parliament and 365 men. I think I was number 14 or so. Let me stress that, in many ways, the Faroe Islands are thriving. Our labor force participation rate is highest in Europe, 85%, with women participation also exceptionally high. We are modern and innovative society with advanced infrastructure, undersea tunnels, and strong industries. Our fishery and salmon farming lead globally, and Faroese music and sport have gained international recognition. Women enjoy same rights as men on paper. So why does this exception still exist? Historically, as you might know, Faroese men worked at sea for extended periods while women were managing household and cared for their family, and that created this deep-rooted division which we still see today, not only in the Faroe Islands, of course. But interesting, a Faroese quite new study showed that a woman's income dropped as much as 60% for some years after giving childbirth. One primary reason is the challenge of balancing work and family, of course, and when a couple choose a part-time job, it's usually the woman who steps back from her career, at least for some time. This pattern exists, of course, elsewhere too, but it is much more pronounced in traditional society like mine or ours. And there is one major factor reinforcing these norms, and that is the gender imbalance. As mentioned earlier, around 40% of every generation moves abroad and only half return. This means that 1 in 5 people never come back. Those who do return often have children, jobs, and debt, and maybe less freedom and time to question and reshape a system. What we are missing, most of all, are the young, independent, critically minded young people, and not at least young women. Those women who could challenge norms and push for change. Without them, the conservative structures and mindset remains. And I guess that is the same problem in many other island nations, also parts of Scotland. So what needs to be done? Housing and jobs matters, of course, but just as important is this creating a society, one where women and men feel free to grow without being confined by traditional roles. Equality remains a crucial goal. Some Faroese companies are stepping up, and I could give you a very good example of a bank in Faroe Islands. As I mentioned, the banks used to be worst in class when it comes to gender equality, but one bank in Faroe Islands, named the Faroe Island Bank, is private, and it has really made an effort to give the women opportunities to get into leading roles, and they are starting by parental leaves, where both the men and women can get full paid when they go on parental leaves, and the women can come back less hour in a week, but getting full payment. And that is also encouraging the men to take parental leaves, because they do not lose in their income. So it's also for the men, of course. And of course, many of us in here, we have had this parental leave for many, many decades, where you get some pay when you go for a parental leave, but I think that we have all to work for that men are taking a bigger part of this, and look to Iceland as a very good example, where more of the leave should be reserved for the fathers, or earmarked as we call it. We must also allow men and boys not just to be allies, but also to see the beneficials of equality. And gender budgeting, I think, is extremely important. It must be incorporated into our financial acts in all the countries, ensuring that public spending promotes gender equality and not the opposite. Because fair pay and economic independence are not just about justice. They are essential also for ending violence against women and girls and poverty, just as Rebecca mentioned earlier. Okay, Faroe Islands might not be number 1 in class when it comes to gender equality, but we think that to work for gender equality worldwide is very important, and the UN's work in this area, United Nations work in this area, is crucial. And to demonstrate our support, a delegation comprising all female members in Parliament of Faroe Islands, along with the minister, a powerful and rare statement, attended the CEDAW conference in New York last year. We must have the courage to show how seriously we take this work. And this brings us to the key question: how do we move beyond echo chambers? Maybe this is one of them. How do we engage in honest dialogue with countries, parties, and often male decision makers who hold powers, so that respectful discussion and strong arguments can drive faster progress? Information has always been a tool of influence. The gatekeepers of knowledge have long shaped have long shaped who rises to power. Today, those gatekeepers, to a great extent, are algorithms and AI. So we must ask, how do we ensure a fair flow of information in the digital age? How do we prevent IA2 and algorithms from reinforcing inequality, which we might see at the moment? Keep them from influencing our sons and men with misogynistic propaganda, and instead get them to see all the benefits of an equal society. In this area, we politicians definitely must tighten up drastically. These issues are far too important to leave to private tech giants and international multi-billionaires. We need to ensure that also women and girls can truly benefit from the digital revolution by gaining skills, accessing opportunities, and bringing down the digital gender gap. Only then can we achieve absolute equality in both the physical and in the digital world. And this is why network like Women Group 10 matters so much. And thank you very much for your attention.